In this edition of INN CEO Talks, I'm joined by Luke Cox of Green Technology Metals to talk about what is rapidly becoming one of the most important metals in the world, lithium. Luke, welcome.
Yep, thank you. Good to be here.
Let's start by talking just about how important lithium is becoming, and in particular to the US and Europe. Both regions have huge demand and a huge need to secure supply lines. It's a remarkable position right now that anybody in this sector is in, because you're seeing this remarkable demand just ahead of you.
Absolutely. I've come from Western Australia, heavily involved in the lithium space, developing that supply chain up to China, and that takes quite a long time. And now I've moved over to Canada, or really North America, and that supply chain is heavily undeveloped. So with an undeveloped supply chain and a big draw for all of the lithium players to jump in there, like this, there's going to be a massive crunch. There's going to be a supply chain issue early on upstream. So it's really whoever develops an operation first will take all, because they'll be delivering first into that supply chain in North America.
So it's beneficial to you right at the moment that lithium prices have skyrocketed. I noted by about 20% since January, and as of the time of the recording of this interview, I just checked $47,500 per ton. It's become a very valuable commodity.
Absolutely. I watch this every time I see a new gigafactory or I see a new plant for EV manufacturing. That's just another mouth we've got to feed. So this is just getting worse. The supply chain, we can't supply enough lithium into the market. So everyone's scrambling for supply. So anyone like early explorers, developers, producers, they're either getting snapped up by the big players, or they're getting massive offtake agreements. And some of the prices they're receiving is astronomical. One thing I like is the Battery Metals Exchange. It's called the BMX in Australia. It's where they sell parcels of lithium onto the spot market. And even those prices are going through the roof because all of these downstream players need supply, and supply is diminishing. So the only way the price can go is up. And it's going to go even further as more battery plants are built.
So you mentioned earlier that you have been working in that lithium space in Australia, but now you're focusing on Canada, Ontario in particular. What is it about being in Canada that makes this an important time to be there, all things considered that we've just discussed?
Yeah. So this is where, the Biden administration came in. They said, look, we need to lock up domestic supply. When they say domestic, they've opened that up to Canada. And they said, look, we need to lock this up, because at the moment, all of the supply coming out of Australia is going up to China. That's already being bought. That's all contracts. That's all tied up. So then America said, okay, well, we need to lock up our own supply. So where is it? So they've started to look for America. There's a few players there that they're developing projects. Lithium Americas Corp, they're developing the Thacker Pass. That's a massive deposit, right? But also they've said, well, let's look at Canada. That's a massive mining jurisdiction. That's got a big history of mining. So we said, okay, let's go up there. We've bought some great assets. We're developing them. So what we're going to do, we just need to get that first operation up and running, and we're just going full steam ahead on that.
That operation is your Seymour project, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've got several operations. So the first one's called Seymour. We've only been drilling up there for 6 months, and we've proved that up to nearly 10 million tons. The drawings are still there. We're still proving up resources. We want to get that into production as soon as we can. So, as part of that, there is a process that you go through in mining, especially though I specialize and my team specialize in startup. So you have to do the baseline studies. That's all the environmental studies. You have to start the permitting process. And also you're working in an area that's owned by the First Nations. So you're working with the First Nation groups up there, forming that relationship and trust that you're going to do the right thing when you're working there. And they're all the things we did as soon as we hit the ground. Now, that comes from experience from starting up operations. So, what we're doing there, we're saying, okay, we've got 10 million tons. Well, where do we need to get to kick this thing off? And we say, well, it's around that 15 million tons. Now, what does 15 million tons get you? Well, that gets you a 10-year mine life. And with that, that's the start of the supply chain. That buys you 10 years to start feeding into other projects that we've got, which is Root. We've got drill rigs heading at Root right now. We're just about to start drilling. And then we've got the other projects all on high value ground in Canada. So what we'll do, we'll build this supply chain up, but we're not going to do this alone. I mean, it's not just GT1. So I think one thing that people don't realize in the background is that we've actually got Primero. So GT1 will do the exploration, develop the resources, start the operation up, and then we hand the baton over to Primero. So what Primero do, they're the premium provider of lithium concentrators. So they build, design, construct, and maintain lithium concentrators, and they're part of our business. So already we've got the exploration and mining, then we've got the processing into an SC6 concentrate. Now, more recently, we joined forces with Lithium Americas Corp. Now, they're a massive player in North America, heavily tied into the American market, and they understand the business. So what they bring to the party is the conversion. So once you get an SC6 concentrate, you then convert that into a hydroxide. So they've got the testing facilities, they've got the staff, they've got the team, the chemists, they've got everything. So that finishes off our supply chain. So all of a sudden, GT1 goes from, a small startup in Canada. We're already developing the resources and the supply chain of raw materials. Then it goes to Primero to process to an SC6, and then it up to LAC, and then it goes into the North American market. So so things are really kicking off. I mean, everyone in our team has started up operations before. So I'll give you an instance for myself. I used to be a mine manager at one of the biggest lithium operations in the world. I understand what it takes to get an operation up and running and to keep it maintained, and working with the First Nations. These are big ticket items that only comes with experience.
So what's the proposition to investors right now as they look at GT1? They could be saying, okay, look, it all sounds great. Why should I invest? Why now?
Okay, right. So you see the share price, we're sitting around the 70 cents. We're on the Australian Stock Exchange, ticker GT1. Now, we've been up as high as the movement in the market goes. So what we're offering a full supply chain by people that have done this before. And what we're doing now, we're with the first operation, which is Seymour, and we'll develop that. And then all of a sudden, people realize, oh, these guys have got it all tied up. So I think coming in now will, it will be a great investment because, we're not just an explorer, and that's some of the issues you find, that you get an exploratory company come in, they'll prove a resource up for 5 years, then they hand the baton on to the developers that will then do the feasibility, and then they'll do the permits, and then the environmental studies. There's another couple of years. Then they hand the baton on to the construction team. So all of a sudden, that's 10 to 15 years away. But what we're doing everything in parallel. We're pumping along because we want to be the first into the market, especially in Ontario, especially in Canada. Feeding that. It's like a lion hungry for food, and that's the lithium market in North America.
So what kind of announcements should investors be looking to you for over the next 3 to 6 months?
Okay, so the next announcement is we've already kicked off the Seymour flagship project. That's well underway. We're developing the resource, baseline, permitting, First Nations, that's all kicking along. We're saying, right, well, what we want to do is kick off the next project. So that's called Root. So Root has a historical estimate on it. We can't report that under the JORC code, but what that is telling us, there's already known pegmatites there. I've got pictures and emails on WhatsApp from my team. They're on site now. There's drill rigs there. There's large spodumene crystals. There's pegmatites, a swarm all over the site. So that's going to be an easy target for us. That's our bread and butter. We go in with the rigs, we do the resource development, we prove up a resource, and then we get that kicking along in terms of the permitting and the baseline studies. So that will be the next big announcement comes out. And around every 6 months, we'll do resource updates on where we're sitting. We're sitting around the 10 million tons now. You know, when you look at that, that's already a mine. So especially with these prices, just with the SE6 concentrate, you're getting over $6,000 a ton. That's outrageous.
Where, you know, when we take a look at where prices are, where do you, you know, anticipate that the market's going to go?
In terms of a price, I don't want to put a number on that, but the market is in contango in that today's price is at the low point. I think this will only go north. And that's not just me saying that because I'm trying to pump the market. That's me saying that because I'm looking around me and I'm going, okay, right. You know, GM, Ford, Tesla, they're all reaching out and they're saying, look, we need supply. What can you do for us? You know, what's your timelines? When can we get the feed? Because they're already building the plants, you know, and we're playing catch up. But with you know, say, it takes 2 years to build a gigafactory. You know, it can take anywhere up to 3 to 5 years to build a mine. So there's going to be this supply chain gap.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time to be in the lithium market. Luke, I hope that you'll come back and give us an update in the future. It's been very interesting talking to you about not only the market, but the projects that you have underway.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Watch this space, exciting times, and lithium's going nuts at the moment.
It most certainly is. Thank you.